welcome again to another edition of GC Orthodontics Exchange. It is my pleasure to be here today and sitting with Dr. Larry Wang from the Baltimore Orthodontic Group. Dr. Wang, welcome. Thank you for taking some time out of your day to chat with us today.
Thanks for having me.
How are you doing?
Doing well. Doing good. Doing good. Beautiful day in Baltimore. So
yeah, the sun is shining.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that's good. That's a good thing.
It's good. It's good. So, Dr. Wang, for those that don't know you, can you just give a little brief intro of who you are and what you do?
Sure. So, obviously, I'm an orthodontist with the Baltimore Orthodontic Group. It started back in, I think 1998, I think it was. And so I did my dental school at Northwestern in Chicago. And then I did my orthodontic residency at the University of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey. Now it's called Rutgers. It's a lot easier.
Yep.
And then just happened to come down here. And at the time, this group, was looking for a full-time associate. And we had some good friends down here in Baltimore, my wife and I, and they said, why don't you come down to Baltimore and give it a try? It's a great city. And so we said, sure. And so now, mortgage and 2 kids later, I'm here.
Yeah.
So that's how we came down to Baltimore and how I started with this group, basically.
Fantastic.
And it was, I think it was it 98? Yeah.
98.
Yeah.
And you are a partner now.
Yeah.
Within the Baltimore Orthodontic Group.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So my situation was it was a 5-year associate agreement.
Right.
And in that agreement, it was clearly outlined, what I would be working and where and so forth. Mm-hmm. And then after 5 years, I would be up for a partnership negotiation at the time.
Right.
So thankfully, I made a pretty good impression and did okay, and
it
worked out okay. And the senior doctors were happy with my work and what I'd done for the practice, and so the offer was extended, and then I became partner in 2003. I think it was 5 years later. Yeah,
wow,
exactly.
That seems like such a short time ago, but yet it's been.
I know it really timing wise it just
flies,
and that's what I tell the young doctors coming out. It really flies by, and so yes, you have to be a little bit patient about things, and when you're graduating and there's all these things that you're thinking you want to do and stuff, but it takes time, but that time goes by quickly. Yeah.
So how did you get into orthodontics? What inspired you? What attracted you to the specialty of orthodontics?
Actually, it's a simple answer. It just seemed like fun. Yeah. I'm not gonna make it more complicated than it is. I was in dental school. Mm-hmm. You do your different rotations in all the specialties. Yep. Endodontics, prosthodontics, periodontics, and I like the atmosphere going down there, and there's all the kids were all around, and it just seemed to be just like it was just I like the atmosphere of the practice, right. And that's what kind of caught my eye. That's what kind of caught my attention. So I love dentistry. Obviously you have to be a dentist before you become an orthodontist, and I enjoyed it and so forth. But there was just something about these orthodontists seem to be having a good time in the clinic. Yeah. And so I thought I'll be honest with you, that was really what attracted me to it, was because you have to think about it. This is something that you're going to be doing for the rest of your life, which is great, but you're making that career choice, and 30, 40 years, whatever it may be. And I just thought, I could visualize thinking ahead, not know exactly what the plan would be, right. But I could visualize myself, doing orthodontics for the rest of my life, and so that's what kind of pushed me towards that. Yeah.
So the Orthodontic Baltimore Group, it's not just this location in Ellicott City, right? You guys have a bunch of locations around Baltimore. Yep. You want to run through those and let people know kind of where you're located?
Well, yeah. So we have a location in Catonsville,
yep.
Ellicott City, Eldersburg, Lutherville, and East Point, Dundalk.
Wow, and how many doctors
do you have? We have 6 doctors altogether.
6 doctors?
Yeah,
wow,
exactly.
That's great. And you are a traditional service, both aligners, fixed appliances?
Exactly, right. Yeah. So, we still, we have all the other stuff too, but basically, fundamentally, aligners and braces are your choices, and that's kind of worked out well for us. Yeah. And that's how it works.
Yeah, great. So we've both been doing this for a couple of minutes, orthodontics, right? Where do you see it going, in the next, say, 5 years, 10 years? Where do you see the specialty going?
Well,
what do you think our challenges will be as we move forward?
Well, I think right now in terms of, I think it's good. It's not necessarily challenges, if you will, but I think technology and artificial intelligence is constantly getting better. Yep. And so I think what the challenge will be is just to make sure that, there's all this great opportunity to to be advanced, if you will, to advance things more.
Right.
But you still have to make sure that we keep the basics and the fundamentals in terms of doctor-patient relationship and so on. So I think like I said, it's exciting, and there's all these things coming out.
Yeah.
But I think in the end, nothing still changes that fundamental basic, first of all, fundamental biomechanics and the understanding of orthodontics and tooth movement and so forth. But also, I think that doctor-patient relationship, I still think that's not going to go away. I think it's more, especially when you're dealing, especially, let's face it, it's still orthodontics.
Yeah.
And yes, there's more and more adults seeking orthodontic treatment, but it's still, kids, and you're dealing with teenagers and young adults and young children. Yeah. So I think that there's still that importance that in the end, technology does not replace a doctor talking to parents, talking to children, and getting them to understand what treatment's all about, why they're getting treated. Yeah. So I don't think technology replaces that.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess we kind of saw example of that recently with the direct to consumer approach with Smile Direct Club, etc., and a few more companies that try to jump on that. What were your thoughts on that? When obviously they didn't last, they disappeared. They kind of
they did disappear. But I do think that I don't know if they've disappeared for good. Right. I don't know if that's the case. I think the bigger issue is if we forget the company or forget what it is. Yeah. Once again, it's still that there's still that fundamental diagnosis. Mm-hmm. There's still that fundamental of doctor monitoring the treatment. Yeah. So it doesn't matter where that treatment's coming from. What company it is. I think there's two fundamentals, and that is proper diagnosis with the appropriate record taking, the appropriate evaluation by a doctor, and then as well as watching over treatment by a doctor. Right. So I think those are the fundamentals that don't change. And if a direct-to-consumer company, has a modality that's allowed for, if you will, or they can do that, that's the way it may go. So I don't know if they're going to go away for sure, but certainly there's some. Once again, I always go. That's the way I've always worked. That's always practiced. Keeping the fundamentals where they need to be, and those are two key fundamentals.
Do you feel that they just got it wrong the first time around, and they'll learn and they'll reset?
I think that's possible. I think it's possible. I think, like I said, I think there's just like I said, it's a business, and like any other business, you have to be productive. You have to do what you need to do to make the bottom line and so forth. Yeah. But I think there's just a few steps you just can't skip. Yeah. And in terms of, once again, this is looking at it from the perspective of overall patient health. Right. That's our goal. That's our goal. It doesn't matter what kind of doctor you are. Right. The point being is whether it's an orthodontist or anyone, we want to look out for what is best for the patient and their overall health care, their overall orthodontic care or dental care. And there's just certain steps you just can't skip to make sure that it takes place.
How is the Baltimore Orthodontic Group evolving with the industry? What are you doing different than you did 10, 15 years ago?
Well, I think I would say the key thing is probably the aligner therapy has pretty much been the fundamental change, if you will, because I think it changes that. I would say over the last 15 years, that's really what's dramatically changed within our practice, and that's the amount of aligners that we're using and the amount of aligner patients that we're seeing, and that's simply because, once again, it's just you had to adapt your protocols and how you saw patients within the office, and it changes all kinds of dynamics, how you prepare for a case, how you plan a case. So I think for us, that's been the dramatic change. Like I said, I want to say that we had braces down pretty good. Right. I want to say that, of course, but the point being is that's what aligners brought into the play was not only did it bring in, like I said, a need to change your protocols, your procedures, scheduling, things like that are completely different with aligners. So you had to accommodate for that, and how you plan a case, how you present a case, that's different as well with aligners. So I think that's definitely been something that's probably been a fundamental change for us over the last decade or so.
Right. And as we talk about technologies and change, a popular one out there in the marketplace is remote monitoring. Yep. What's your thoughts on that? Do you want a patient? Are you a fan of that, or what do you think?
Well, you know what? I think I definitely think it has its place. Yeah. Okay, so absolutely, because obviously COVID kind of taught us that a little bit, of course. But I think remote monitoring does have its place, and certain companies are out there that offer that, because in the end, I think I think part of what's changing also is the population of patients. People are getting busier. They're got be it adults or kids with multiple activities going on. Yeah. So I think if there's a way to allow for patient care to be monitored, okay. I think remote has its place. Now, once again, you still have to have the systems in place that if something is noticed or detected or there's an issue, that there is a pathway to getting that patient in the office in a timely manner or having a doctor respond to that. So once again, remote monitoring is fine, but you have to have that plan B or C when you remote monitor something that doesn't seem to be where it needs to be.
Yeah. Awesome. So, not that we want to keep bringing COVID to the forefront. We definitely want to put it in the rearview mirror. But since we're talking about COVID, how, if anything, did COVID change the dynamics of how you do business?
Well, I mean,
how did you survive through COVID? Is probably a better question. How did Baltimore Orthodontic Group? Because I'm sure it had to be tough.
It was tough. I mean, but I will say this, and that was one of the things that I thought was such a great positive that came out of COVID, if you can say a positive came out of COVID. And that was actually, to be honest with you, Baltimore Orthodontic Group, as well as most of the orthodontists in the area, were able to get through it. And I got to tell you, got through it together. That's one of the things that that when I look back on it, and, orthodontists were talking to each other. Hey, what are you doing about this? Hey, how are you having patients come in? So when we were given the okay to open back up our doors, the communication, the emails, the texts, the exchanges, it really was, I mean, I was proud of the orthodontic profession, really, if you can say it that way, of how we all got together and really got through that. And like I said, and how we got through it was just taking, I guess that's where I really learned the term best practices. And that is from, following what the CDC said, what the Maryland Dental Health Board said, what are your colleagues were saying, and just taking all that information and creating the necessary protocols to ensure safety for doctors, staff, and patients. So I would say how we got through it, it was a group effort. I mean, obviously, we had great doctors here and great team members that were, that were working through it under very difficult circumstances, and we had patients that were also very patient and very understanding. So it really, to get through it, it really was a people thing. You really, like I said, we all had followed the same protocols, worn the same masks, washed the same hands, used the same all that stuff. We did all that. What was different is that, like I said, team members willing to put up with a lot to be able to work. Patients being patient at the extra time, or parents not being able to come to the back, and doctors, like
waiting
I said, waiting in their cars and all that. So I think there was just a tremendous group effort from all the parties involved, and I think that's how Baltimore Orthodontic Group and other orthodontists got through it. But once again, I'm really proud of how the orthodontists in this area in Baltimore really came together. They really came together. And I think that was I thought that, guys I don't usually talk to, hey, Larry, what are you going to be doing? That was great. I really, for that, if anything could come out of it, that was great.
It is. Orthodontics, really, it's such a community, isn't it? I mean,
it has to be.
Once you get into it, you fall in love with it, you want to be part of it. And, we've, again, doing this a long time, you and I.
I would also, kudos. I will say this too. I forgot a very important component of that too, and that is, and you get kudos for that, Patrick. And that is the companies that we were working with also had to help keep us supplied. So I do not. So I apologize for not even mentioning that. That was part of that as well. And that's not a plug, by the way. I'm just saying, not at all. But the point being was that,
and every company did.
Exactly.
Not just GC Orthodontics.
So I would say that the companies also played a part in that and making sure that we had what we had. We joke around now. Sometimes we have like different colored gloves, and people will say, "Oh, you're using black gloves now." Like, no, we just use what we could get.
And again, it is such a community, and that encompasses everybody, right? Just the orthodontist, the patient, doing their part, like waiting in their cars for their turn because they couldn't come into the office, to the vendors like myself, GC Orthodontics, that had to adapt, and we got through it. It's great.
No, we did.
I think we learned a lot, which is great. And hopefully, again, it's in the rearview mirror, and we'll move forward.
Hopefully that was a one-shot deal.
So let me just pivot a little bit. Let's talk about corporate orthodontics.
Sure.
Right, it's a big thing. It's happening, whether we like it or not. There's a lot of consolidation going on in our industry. Baltimore Orthodontic Group is a big group. Have you considered it? What do you think are the good, the bad, and the ugly of corporate orthodontics?
Well, I would say Obviously it's always going to be on your radar given how prevalent it is.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, like I said, it has its pros and its cons.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that we've noticed is that if you, like I said, there's different colleagues in the area that have gone corporate, if you want to call it that.
Sure.
And yeah, if you talk to one doctor, it was a great experience. It was the perfect time for him, and it's been working out great. And you talk to another doctor, and they're like, well, that wasn't quite the deal that I thought it would be, and so forth. So I think, like I said, for us right now, we're doing okay, and so, but obviously it has to be something that's, that's out there. There's a presence there, and knowing what other doctors are doing and what companies are out there, I think is important. You have to stay informed by all means. Yeah. In terms of the pros and cons, I can only go by what I've talked to with other doctors. And I think part of, like I said, one of the pros obviously is I think for some doctors that I've talked to, it really has helped to alleviate some of the managerial stresses that they've had to deal with. Some guys just like, that's not, you hear that
not
a lot.
for me.
Well,
that's fine.
Exactly. You hear that a lot sometimes from a doctor. I just wish I could just see the patients. You do hear that from doctors. And so I think this is an opportunity where, yes, these corporations do have systems in place, managerial systems in place, that great. If that's something that you're not wanting to do or handle in your career, fine, they take that off your plate. Yeah. So that's one aspect of it. But then taking that into consideration, these companies do have, like I said, protocols and things in place that I've talked to other doctors where they've expressed concern about, it's not, they're asking me to do this now, or I have to, use this lab or something. So in other words, there are some restrictions that I think some doctors may not want. So I think so obviously it's a case-by-case basis.
Sure it is.
And company-by-company basis. Yeah. But I would say to you that, to me, the way that I view it is just timing. And right now, like I said, Baltimore Orthodontic Group, we're at a good place, knock on wood. We're at a good place, knock on wood. Yeah. And we have good systems in place ourselves, if you will. So that's why I think right now, like I said, we're aware of it, and we're just keeping an eye on what's out there. But like I said, I think and then once again, I think it's the timing of things as well. Yeah. And but that's kind of that's my take on it. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some recently kind of a promotion, good news you got at the AAO.
Oh.
I heard that you were appointed the MASO Trustee.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
For some reason, that does not surprise me, knowing you.
I appreciate that.
What does that mean to you, and what does it entail, and how would it kind of influence your decision-making with respect to the future of orthodontics?
I think that was part of it. I think so. It's something that like I said, I've always been, as you know, I mean, you and I have been together for so many years. Yeah. I've always been not interested, but it's been a passion of mine to make sure that professional orthodontists, or our associations, if you will, were as strong as they could be, and as relevant as they could be. Yeah. And so, becoming trustee, I think a lot of people that know me personally, as you do, knew that was something that I wanted to do. Yeah. And so, obviously, the opportunity came up with Dr. Steve Siegel now becoming president. You know him well too, right?
Indeed, I do.
So, with Dr. Siegel becoming president, the MASO trustee position was opened up, and so I think the way that I look at it right now, like I said, it's definitely, there's a lot to learn to being trustee. There's no question about that. I had my first. It was announced in Philadelphia at the AO, and I had my first board meeting. And there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work. There's a lot to know. But I think right now my perspective is that, like you alluded to, there are challenges out there, and I'm not saying they're bad challenges, but things like do-it-yourself orthodontics, corporate stuff like that. I think it is important that orthodontists have one voice, okay? And so that's always been an important, thought in my mind, if you will. Yeah. And the AAO definitely, especially now having met these trustees and served with them, there really is a solid core of people, or in the association, staff, the House of Delegates, that really do care about the profession and they care about orthodontic health in this country. Yeah. And so you have to have a means, though, to affect change, or to make sure that bad changes don't happen. Mm-hmm. So that's really where I saw this as an opportunity to be a part of that, especially as a trustee. You really have a lot of resources and good people available to you to really take a deep dive into the things that are facing our profession, and being able to maybe affect some change and affect some policy to be able to make sure things move in the right direction. Once again, the fundamental of this association is to make sure that, orthodontic healthcare is where it needs to be, but also where our members, the membership doctors, are fellow orthodontists, just like we looked out for each other during COVID.
Yep.
That is, to me, is the core.
Yeah.
And I think you have to maintain that core, and that's how I feel about it.
So obviously which I know, you are somewhat of a gatekeeper of the specialty, and I love that about you. And it's, just a dude that's always heavily invested in protecting our specialty. So congrats on the appointee.
Thank you.
And again, and so that is a 9-year appointment,
so it's
right?
a 9-year term.
Yeah. And that should then take you into maybe
if all goes well, I don't mess up too badly. I will see. But so fingers crossed. If I do my job and I do it right, as I tell people, I've been talking the talk. It's now time to walk the walk.
That's right.
And so, but yes, theoretically, I would be the AO president. And I think it's 9 years. Yeah. Wow. So by the time, I think it's not worth counting. Just kind of get your nose to the grindstone, start working, and start being like
do the job.
Just exactly start doing
here today.
Start doing.
See what happens
start
tomorrow.
doing the job. There's a lot of reading involved, getting back into that, and so definitely a lot of policy to understand. So like I said, it's really interesting because there's history, and there's to the association. There's current issues to the association, and then there's the future. And so as a trustee, you really are incorporating all three of those elements in this specialty, in this profession, in everything that you're trying to do: history, present, and future. Right. And that's why you got to know your stuff.
Yeah, well, if anybody can do it.
Well, then thanks,
Dr. Larry
We'll
Wang.
see.
It's
only been a month, so we'll see.
You know what? Maybe we'll do a follow-up podcast in 9 years when you are president of the AO, right?
Or maybe next year. Say, oh yeah, he's done with that now. He's out already. Yeah.
So obviously your new role adds to your workload, right? So how do you balance that? When you go home. Because you have 2 daughters, right? And we talked a little earlier. They're in their 20s now. One in college, one graduated.
Actually, no, they're both graduated.
Both graduated.
Both graduated. Yeah.
And working, right?
Yeah. So one. My daughter Hannah is working in New York right now.
Yeah.
And my daughter Emma is going to med school in the fall at George Washington.
That's fantastic.
So we're excited for both kids. So they both are taking very cool paths. That we're both excited. But I'm also grateful that my wife and I are both grateful that my wife Jenny, that they're both close. So they're both within driving distance, which is great. Yeah. So that's a plus. So that ties in a little bit to your answer, and that is, I am an empty nester house, so that does help a little bit, not a little bit, a lot actually, with being able to kind of juggle the different things. So, and as a doctor right now, I am working less as well. So I'm sorry, as a doctor, as an older doctor, one of the senior partners here, I am working less. So that doesn't. So that was, and that had to be part of the decision too. So you're right. You cannot take jumping into being a trustee lightly. You had to really look at your work schedule, your family obligations, and you have to have the time to do the things that are asked of you. And so that's really what it came down to, was being able to see. And like I said, I have great staff, I have great doctors, I have a great support system, both with my wife and my family, and here in the office. So that was key. And you have that, so you're able to so there is enough downtime, if you want to call it that, for me. And I don't play golf, so that probably that buys you 8 hours.
It does. That's a full day.
I was a lousy golfer, so that buys me a whole day. So the point being is, I don't golf, so that's a huge plus. We joke about that, but that's actually a free day. That's actually a free day.
You just gained a day.
Exactly. So I think that ties into it. So I had to make sure that I had the support systems in place, and which ties into that actually ties in really well to what you talked about in terms of where is the Baltimore Orthodontic Group at. Like I said, I've got great partners and great associates that really, and like I said, a team that really, we follow protocols and stay with those protocols and as best we can, of course. And that really helps with the efficiency. And I have that, and that allows me a little bit more freedom, if you will.
That's great. So you think the Baltimore Orthodontic Group will expand more, or are we kind of content where we're at?
I think we're content. Like I said, now, like I said, we have younger partners, younger doctors. So who knows? They may feel different. Like I said, we're giving them the foundation from which to build. They may feel different and want to expand to other areas or maybe other modalities or whatever it may be. So the door's open for them. I think that's one of the reasons how. And if you were to say, how is the Baltimore Orthodontic Group knock on wood, why we've been successful is because we do give the building blocks to young doctors coming out to build from. Yeah. And I'm very proud of that, and we do our best to facilitate that. And I think that's one of the things that that help this group to grow and maintain where it's at. Yeah. So we allow for growth. We allow for a little bit of autonomy to to be the doctor you want to be, and so I think that helps develop these younger doctors.
That's great. Yeah. Well, I think I need to plug GC Orthodontics here a little bit.
Absolutely.
You're a big fan of our product line, right? The experienced metal, the stuff like getting a bracket. I remember, I can't even remember when I converted you into that way back in the day.
Yeah, that's right.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. Right? So we've been self-ligating for quite a period of time, and in the ceramic as well. So we've been it's been a good switch, and we haven't and it hasn't been on our radar to change.
Good. Glad to hear it.
No, we've been happy.
Has that helped you? Have you seen the benefits of that, utilizing self-ligation, that technology, and our arch wires in managing your caseloads? I mean, has it made life easier?
Absolutely.
I guess you would have, or you would have.
No, absolutely. I think one of the things that definitely. I think that the use of the GC wires and the brackets kind of, once again, we're all part of, over the last 10, 15, 20 years, establishing protocols, like in terms of how long appointments should be, how often patients should be seen, when wire changes need to be facilitated, creating our sequencing of wires. We're all dependent on being with a company or a series of products that we can rely on. So that's essential. So I think one of the key things that I've seen, I think you hear other doctors talk about this with self-ligation. And once again, it doesn't matter what brand per se, but with self-ligation, it really is. It's all about engagement. It really is all about. We all know that's orthodontic. It's one of those basic orthodontic fundamentals.
Basic
the
stuff.
Wires got to be in the slot.
That's right.
And so I think that's where self-ligation was big for us in terms of having part of our training and part of our ongoing, training with the assistants, both old and new, is that focus on full engagement and what it means. Right. And so I think that's been that to me has been a game changer.
Good.
And now that, like I said, but once again, that's now kind of an established thing, if you will.
Yeah.
But that was so fundamental to us to making sure that we got the most out of every bracket, every placement of that bracket, as well as out of every wire that we utilized. Yeah. That's the efficiency that we need to have in place.
Fair to say, I did a good job training you.
I won't argue with you.
Way back in the day.
That I won't argue with at all. So it definitely helped. It definitely helped. Like I said, it definitely helped transition us to the next level of brackets, if you will. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, of course, I can't tell you enough how much we appreciate your loyalty to our product and our brand, and it's been a pleasure getting to know you. Last question, since we're kind of winding down the clock here, so to speak. How do you turn off? What do you do for fun?
Oh, well,
you don't play golf. I know that.
Well,
what do you do?
Obviously, spending my time with my wife Jenny, of course, and also working out and tennis. And creeping into pickleball, if you will. So creeping into pickleball.
Oh, good stuff.
So that's that, and we're very fortunate as well. We have a place down in Florida that my wife and I like to spend time at as well. So so there's the opportunity for a little bit of downtime. But I will say this: I fell into that perfect trap of other people playing pickleball, thinking it's pickleball, and the next morning my back was killing me.
Because you're competitive,
and I couldn't. My wife even said, "Knock it off. It's pickleball. Relax."
Right.
And my back was. I was out for 2 weeks, not from work, but from just in a lot of pain. So I got to tone it down. But like I said, like tennis. We love to hiking, tennis, pickleball, and like I said, spend a little bit of time in Florida when we can. But now that Florida might get changed over to St. Louis, I know it's not quite the same, but that's where, for people that don't know that, the American Association of Orthodontists is in St. Louis. So we spend a little bit more time there as well.
Awesome. So, empty nester, last question.
Sure.
How's it going for you? Because my wife and I were empty nesters for 4 years. Yeah. Daughter just graduated. She's back home now for a while. We kind of, first year was going, last 3 years, I love it. What's your experience?
No, it's been a little bit of an adjustment. It's a little adjustment. Like I said, my wife and I certainly enjoy our downtime, if you will, and spending our time together. Yeah. But having said that, though, your daughters are such a big part of our life that you do miss them. Yeah. But I will say this though, and this is like I said, I'm the dad of the family, so my wife talks to them pretty much a lot. So there's still that closeness. But like I said, enjoying it, but at the same time, you kind of you do look back a little bit when I see younger families come through here, for example. I'm not gonna lie to you, you miss that a little bit. Yeah, you miss that, especially when I see the younger kids come in, especially they have 2 daughters and they come into the office. I'm not gonna lie, I miss that a little bit about that. But I'm glad, once again, that's why I'm so glad they're close by, and we still talk a lot. And I think and that you talk about technology. So let's forgetting everything else. I think the one great thing about technology has been allowing families and friends to stay. To stay in contact more so than just a phone call. Man, remember when we were growing up? Like I said, my dad would call me or I would have to call my dad once a week on a landline, and that's about it. So I am grateful for that. I think that's one thing where technology has allowed for
it has. That's one thing I will definitely agree with. Well, Dr. Wang, Larry, my friend, thank you so much for joining us today. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Continued success to you and Jenny, number one, and of course to the Baltimore Orthodontic Group. And again, we really appreciate your partnership and enjoying our products. So
awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrick.